most everybody here, and so if I don't know you, I'd love to shake your hand and get to know you. I went to the eye doctor today, and as you noticed last week, I had glasses, and I got them here in case of emergency today, but as the kids say, I've got old people font up here so I can see it. I want to start off, I want to clear some things up. We're going through the book of Nehemiah and everything, and last week Jared preached, and he told this story about a kayak adventure that him and Rosie had went on, and how he went from the mainland to the island and everything. And he shared this picture, and he talked about, it was about almost like a mile or something to get there, and he told the story. Well, I have a source that leaked the video that this picture come from. I bet you can't guess the source, but she will explain their journey here. And I just want to share you the whole truth here.
This is me after we kayaked from our house to the island, and this is my father.
You can hear him breathing.
And I got the big ocean kayak, and he got the...
I had to row 2 times for every one of you.
So I just wanted to clear that up there. You call it kayaking, I call it trying to survive. But we're going through the book of Nehemiah, and I love that we're doing this for a couple of reasons. One, when people say, what are you doing at church? You can say, we're going through the book of Nehemiah, and they look at you kind of confused, like, why would you ever do that, just because it's an obscure book from the Old Testament. But I found that this ancient writing can speak to us with modern-day applications, and it leads to eternal implications. I think we can get a fresh perspective from this, a fresh perspective about our mission that we're working on here in this city, in our lives, where we live, and our role in it all. And so in this series, we march on, and so we're talking about chapter 3. And let me say, it's a long chapter, and when I agreed to preach, I didn't know it was a whole chapter, and I didn't know it was this specific chapter. See, in this chapter, it's where the work on rebuilding Jerusalem really begins. The work really starts here. We've talked about the plans. We've talked about the vision. We know that Nehemiah has secured the papers, right? Today we'd say he's got the permits and the plans, and now it's time to go to work. And we're going to notice, if you've got a Bible and you're following along, it's not just one person doing all the work, but it's literally hundreds of people that are going to be working together. In this chapter, Jerusalem gets an extreme home makeover. Right? Remember that show, right? Except for here, they say, move that chariot. I don't know if that would work or not. You put a line through that one. But this word built, it appears over and over in this chapter, and it's really synonymous with the word work, right? Throughout the whole Old Testament, those two words are kind of synonymous, and it really starts in Genesis 1:1. When it says, in the beginning, God built, God created, God worked. And then he puts Adam and Eve in a garden. And he puts them there for a very specific purpose. He puts them there to work, to build, to be in this garden. They're not just existing, but they're there to work. And so this work that we're called to do, it's a godly thing. But this building, this work begins on the walls. And the workers, they form about a 2-mile unbroken circle of unity as they rebuild these walls. And as we look over this chapter, if you're in construction, it looks like what would be known as a WIP, right? A work in progress report, a WIP report. And essentially what this is a list of the workers and where they're working and what they're doing. Yes, a whole chapter that Jared gave me to preach is a list of workers, where they're working and what they're doing. That's all that's in there. And I'm not going to read every verse that's in this chapter. And we're gonna jump around and look at several and see if we can extract some valuable principles. But this is going to be very practical today. because there's some, it's very practical. And like I said, as I was looking over this chapter, I found that there are 38 specific names, 36 that I can't say probably. There's 42 different people groups or teams or families that are listed here. I'm not sure if he gave me this chapter on purpose, but I think we can do it. Are you with me? Let's try this, right? And so I think the best place to start, verse 1. Eliashib, the high priest, and his fellow priest went to work to rebuild the sheep gate. They dedicated it, set its doors in place, building as far as the Tower of the 100. They dedicated, and as far as the Tower of Hanel. The men of Jericho built the adjoining section, and Zakur, son of Amari, built next to them. So this chapter is really like the age-old adage, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So how do you build a city? Right? One gate and one section at a time. Little by little, piece by piece, stone by stone, a great work is being done in little pieces. See, they had made a commitment back in chapter 2, and now they were being mobilized to pull it off. In Nehemiah 2:18, they said, yes, let's rebuild the wall. And so they began to do this good work. What they knew was this job could not be done alone. And so they together got to work. And so today we're going to look at some principles about working together. What does it look like to work together? And these principles can be true of any church, any business, any organization, any group, any team, anybody, any group that is trying to accomplish something together, that is working for a common goal. No matter where you're at, these principles could be true. To bring that into today's time, these principles, we have sayings that kind of encompass what all these things mean, right? Maybe you heard of them. Many hands make light work. Right? Maybe you've heard that. How about this one? Teamwork makes the dream work. That's it, right? Or if you're on Twitter, right, you've seen this before, #Stronger Right? And there's many more of those type of sayings, but they all kind of bear out the same kind of truth. Michael Jordan once said, talent will win games, but it takes teamwork to get championships. So here at this church, it's no secret that we want to make a difference in people's lives so that they can make a difference where they live and in what they do. And we say it like this. We say, we want to make Jesus known in real and relevant ways. Because we believe that this place, that this town, that this area, that wherever that people that come to this gathering go, that no matter where that is, that it should be made different because of God's people being at work, being alive, and being active. And I believe that the key is found in some of these principles here. Principle 1, God's work should be orderly. See, one of the key things in this chapter is order and organization in everything that's happening. There's a logical, organized flow of the work that's being done. Here's a map of what's being done. And so it starts in that upper right-hand corner, the sheep gate, and then it goes counterclockwise all the way around. And from gate to gate, from place to place, they work together to accomplish something great. Now, we're not going to read every verse, because again, it's just a name. I built this gate and this part of the wall. A name, built this gate, this part of the wall. Mostly, that's what's in there. But first thing is, it's kind of easy to spot some repetition that happens, and I think that's important. One of the phrases that you'll see over and over and over again is according to what translation you're reading, is next to them. Or the next section, or after them. It's repeated like 28 times or so in this one chapter alone, right? The people of the town of Jericho were next to them, or next to them were the people of Tekoa, next to them, and on and on and on and on. And so this principle is found in the New Testament. In 1 Corinthians 14:40, it says, "Be sure that everything is done properly and in order." And we see that being done here on this wall. Just in order. They're just working together. It's not chaos. It's not like they said, we're going to build this wall, and everybody just busts loose and doing whatever. They had an order and a sequence that they were doing, right? A more familiar verse in 1 Corinthians 14, it says that God is not the author of confusion. Right? In another translation, it says it this way: God is not a God of disorder, but a God of peace. And so when God gets a hold of something, he implores order. He puts order into place. Out of the chaos comes order. I think about creation, right? He created the heavens and the earth. And during this creation, he brought order out of chaos. He created everything in an orderly sequence in 6 days. He put things into motion, and he did it with precision and predictability. That's how we can tell. We know when the sun is going to come up. We know when there's going to be a full moon. We know that it is cold, but spring is coming. Because God is a God of order and precision and timing. The human body, it's the same way, right? It's the exact same way with our systems and our organs and our muscles and everything works together with precision. And I be with my wife, and she'll get, somebody will send them their blood work, and there'll be one thing off, like your vitamin D is off. That's the reason this is happening. And they'll be falling apart. Your potassium is off. One thing gets off, the whole thing falls apart because there's precision and there's order that make us work. God's work should represent his character. Even here at church, there are systems and structures that are at play that keep things going. There's systems and stuff. Like Jeff has a system, and that's what keeps our lights on. It's not just him. There's a thing in place that happens that keeps our lights on. That we got a system, that way we know we have coffee, which is very important, right? There's systems and structures in place to make sure we stay on mission and we don't get mission drift. It's real easy to do that, but we got guardrails that keep us going in the right direction. And make no mistake about it, Christ is the head of the church, which is his body, right? And so he leads us and guides us so that we can work together and create this symphony that comes to this apex, this peak that changes everywhere we go. Right? This should be the epicenter of something awesome. We don't want this to be a cruise ship. We want it to be a battleship that's launching aircraft carriers, that's going into war, into homes, into workplaces, into all those things, that's able to attack the darkness that's been gripping our world. So God's work is in order. Second principle, there's a place for everyone. Right? One of the most striking facts about this chapter is that it is not a one-man show. In fact, Nehemiah, that this book is named after, isn't even listed in this chapter in all this work. Now, if you've got a Bible, I know you see the name Nehemiah right there. That's somebody different. That's not even this Nehemiah. But so he's not even in this whole chapter of this work that's being done. Listen to some of the people that are involved, right? So there's, verse 1, there's priests. Verse 2, there's men of Jericho. Verse 5, there's Tekoites. Verse 7, the people of Gibeon. Verse 8, the goldsmiths, the perfumers. Verse 32, the merchants, and on and on and on. There's all these people who are working. Let's look at verse 8. Uzziel, the son of Hariah, one of the goldsmiths, repaired the next section, and Hananiah, one of the perfume makers, made repairs next to that. They restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. And this is just a guess. I wasn't there. But I can imagine that goldsmiths and perfumers probably have delicate hands. You know, this probably wasn't the work that they were used to. They probably were a little out of place here. So maybe it was different for them, outside of their comfort zone. But we can see that they were involved, that they did it anyway. If I think that there's anybody that could have said, this is not my job, might could have been them. And we'll throw the priest in there too, right? They probably could have said, I'm not a builder, like good luck, I'll be praying for you. But they didn't. They went to work on the wall. Check out verse 12. Shallum, son of Haloshesh, ruler of half of the district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section with the help of his daughters. Wonderful daddy-daughter date, if you're looking for something to do. But it's interesting to me that this is mentioned, and it doesn't say why, and this is all we get, right? Maybe he didn't have sons, I don't know. But here's what I want. We see in Scripture over and over and over God using women as a great part of his great work. And here's what I want to say here, that there's a place for everyone. There's a place for everyone in God's great work. God loves variety. And this is the one of the things that I love about this place. I mean, you just look around. There's so many different people from so many different places, so many different walks of life, and we come together here under one banner, and that's the banner of Jesus Christ. And that's what makes it special, and I love it. I mean, we've got everything from students to medical professionals to everything in between, teachers. I mean, like just you can't get this group together if you tried, except for with Jesus. And I think it's found in 1 Corinthians. There are different kinds of spiritual gifts, but the same Spirit is the source of them all. There are different kinds of service, but we serve the same Lord. God works in different ways, but it is the same God who does the work in all of us. A spiritual gift is given to each of us so we can help each other. Working together with different skills. It's what makes it so great. And I love playing the drums. And you think about even this thing over here, like the things that are going on over here. So you got a left foot, you got a right foot, you got a right hand and a left hand, right? And you can, whatever. But when they work together, right? And there's something special about this coming together that makes it comes in order. I heard this story about Jesus' workshop, right? So Jesus was a carpenter, right? Newsflash. But Jesus was a carpenter, so he probably had a workshop. And they said one time the tools all were having a meeting, and they were trying to get rid of some of the tools because they were causing problems, right? And so they all come against the hammer. They said, "Hammer, you're too loud. You're too forceful. We got to do something with you." And then the hammer said, "Yeah, but what about the screwdriver? He's always twisting things around, and he's doing that." And the screwdriver said, "Yeah, but what about the plane? The plane, he's just surface level. There's no depth to him at all." And the plane said, "Oh yeah, well what about the sandpaper? He's rubbing us the wrong way most of the time." Well, they were just going, right? Well, Jesus comes in and he picks up the hammer, he picks up the screwdriver, he picks up the plane, and he picks up the sandpaper, and he goes and builds something. Because they're all needed. They're all needed in this work of God. And so we all have a part. Remember, in this chapter, Nehemiah isn't even mentioned. One person, no matter how gifted, no matter how talented, can do the work of ministry alone. And Nehemiah knew this, and that's why he got other people involved, because you can't do it alone. I remember back in 1981, President Ronald Reagan was shot. He was hospitalized for several weeks. And so what was interesting is that this country didn't shut down. This country's executive leader was out of commission for several weeks, but on people's everyday life, it had little to no effect. Now check this out. Just a few months ago, in Birmingham, England, the garbage workers went on strike. And the city became a literal mess. In fact, it got so bad that the health officials deemed the city as an official health hazard. and told people not to go there. The city almost shut completely down until they got to negotiations and got settled and got things going. And so I'm going to say, who's more important, right? The leader of a nation or the garbage collectors of the city? And before you answer that, this is a trick question because the answer is both. The answer is both. Both are needed, like they needed Nehemiah to get the papers and get the plans and get everything together, and they needed the people to go to work. Just like in a city, we need the leaders to organize and structure, and we need the workers to go work and do. And so both are needed for society to function, just like here in our text. All of them are needed. It's not dependent on one skill or one person. All are needed. And that leads us to our next principle. Your service should fit you. I want us to notice where the people worked, right? Back to verse 1. Elisha, the high priest, and his fellow priest went to work and rebuilt the sheep gate. So the sheep gate was in the northwest corner, and they're brilliant. They put it next to the sheep market. Right? These are genius people. And so every day, hundreds and hundreds of sheep would come through this gate. And of all of those sheep, some would be purchased and brought to the temple for sacrifice. And so these priests had a stake in it. They knew that the people would be coming to worship, and they needed a way to get the sheep in so that the sheep could make it to the temple so that they could have their sacrifice and they could do their duties. And so they were building on a section that fit their personality, that fit their calling that God had given them. Verse 10. Next to them, Jediah, son of Haramoth, repaired the wall across from his own house. Verse 23. After them, Benjamin and Husab repaired the section across from their house. Verse 28. Above the horse gate, the priest repaired the wall. Each of them repaired the section immediately across from his own house. Verse 29. Zadok, son of Amar, also rebuilt the wall across from his own house. You see that pattern? They did this, they put them there to make sure that they did a good job. Basically, they knew that if they worked on a section in front of their home, it affected them the most. That every day they would wake up and go look at it. Every day they would have to stare at it. And if it was a half-done job, they knew it, and they had to live in it. And so it mattered to them. And so they could see it, and it mattered. And so the thought here is that build where you are. Like, build where you are. Like, think about where you live, the community that's around you. Think about the place you work, the people who sit across from you, the people that you encounter. Think about you in line at Walmart. I've heard some amazing stories about people who are frustrated trying to get to a register, right? And how some awesome conversations can strike up. Build where you are. My grandmother would say it like this: bloom where you're planted. They didn't have to commute to work. Didn't have to transport materials, go find tools. It was all right there at their house, and it made them more effective in this very moment. See, your work for the Lord should reflect your gifting from the Lord. Whether that be your location, your talent, your job, your influence, whatever it is, your work for the Lord should reflect your gifting from the Lord. Here's another principle. I feel the amens. Some work harder than others. And we know this, but here it is in the Bible, right? So I want to look at two different verses, right? Next to him was Barak, son of Zabi, who zealously repaired an additional section from the angle to the door of the house of Elisha, the high priest. And so that word, zealously, it means with great energy or enthusiasm, in pursuit of a cause or an objective, right? I would probably say this guy is fired up about his job, right? He put his whole heart into what he was doing. So now I want to compare that to verse 5. Next to them, the Tekoites made repairs, but their nobles did not put their shoulders to the work of the Lord. This is interesting. Now, we don't know why they wouldn't help. We just know they didn't, right? Maybe they thought, I'm a noble, and this is beneath me. I don't know. Maybe they thought, nobles don't build, even though everybody else was. I don't know. Here's what I do know. They showed up, but they didn't step up. I say all that simply to say we need to realize that some people just aren't going to do anything. And others are going to do more than expected, and there's going to be everywhere in between. And this is at work, at school, on a team, in a fundraiser, whatever you're doing, this applies. Laziness is never exonerated in Scripture. Solomon says, go to the end, you sluggard, and consider your ways and be wise. I love comedians. I heard one time. He said, I love work. I could sit and watch it all day. But that's exactly what these nobles were doing. And this is true. Like I say, this is true for every office, every school, every team. Like everywhere you go, you're going to see these principles in place. It's going to happen. You even see this at church. Sometimes church is nothing more than a spectator sport for people, right? You get dressed up, you come, you sit, you watch, you listen, you leave, but you never get plugged in. You never get transformed. There's not stakes that are involved. And so there's nothing that happens. I love documentaries. I was watching one about football, and they asked his coach, they said, could you describe to me the game of football? He said, yes. Football is 22 men running around on the field who desperately need rest, and 22,000 in stands who desperately need exercise. But that's what it feels like sometimes, that there's just a few people doing a lot of the work and a lot of the people watching them, right? Ecclesiastes 9:10 says this, whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might. Now, here at church, I want to make this easy. Because if you're here and you're in this church, you are needed. There are jobs and outreaches and ministries that could really use you, no matter who you are, no matter what your skill set, no matter what your time restraints, no matter where you are in life, we could use you. Maybe you think, I'm too old. At this stage in my life, there's not much I could do, right? Here's what I want to tell you. That there's families here, there's parents here who need you to step into it and help them with their walk, to let them know that it's going to be okay, that this is a moment in life that one day you're going to look back on and you're going to miss. But so God has put you here today to enjoy this moment and to speak into this child and to train him to walk up in the ways of God. I promise it's going to be okay. I know your boy gets up and runs. It's going to be fine. Trust me, I'm on the other side of that, and I know. But we need those people, and then we need them to say, I'm going to walk with you through this whole thing. I'm going to check with you through this whole thing. We've got students who are gone to school who could use notes of encouragement and love and just well wishes along the way. You can do this. We need you. There are pastors here who could use a hug and a prayer and maybe a piece of cake every now and then. I could go on and on. But what I'm telling you is there's weeds that need to be cut. There's classes that need to be led. There's garbage that needs to be took out. There's closets that need to be, there's babies that need to be held. There's all kinds of things. There's a job for everyone. And when we work together in the place where God has sent us, then amazing things start to happen. And that leads to our final principle here. The work should be tied to purpose. This is why you do it. It's just simple. This is just why you do this. And after first service, Joe Lane was talking to me, and he's been on several mission trips with us. And he's talking about the why. Like, we don't do these mission trips to build a porch. We do it for the people and to be able to point them to Jesus Christ. And so that's the crux of the why. But we have to ask ourselves, why are you doing this? Why is it needed? Is it just so we can have a nice place or a comfortable experience or just something to do? I've got some extra time. I'll go help out a little bit. just as important as knowing what to do is to know why you're doing it. And when you understand why you're doing something, you become more impactful because you're walking in and toward your purpose that God has laid before you. And when you understand why you're doing something, you do it different. And people take notice. And it not only changes the way that this specific task is done, but it motivates the people around you to stand up and to do something. And I see this a lot. I see it here. And it's very unintentional, but it's super awesome. Right? So here in a little while, just a few minutes, the band's going to come. They're going to play. We're going to say another prayer, and we're going to leave. But we don't just leave. We talk for a few minutes, right? And during that talk, somebody notices that somebody left a coffee cup, and so they pick it up. Oh, and here's a bulletin. They pick that up. Well, the person behind them sees that, and so they go, oh, here's one too, and I'll pick this up. And so somebody over there sees it, and they go, oh, yeah, I saw that, and so I'm going to pick this one up. And before you know it, most of the trash has made its way out. It's very unintentional, but it's very purposeful. And that's the way God works. Like whenever you set the example, it's like fire and it just spreads. Right? And I'm not just talking about here at church. I'm talking about no matter what you're doing. If you're a businessman, a medical professional, a student, a construction worker, a teacher, an athlete, a coach, no matter what you're doing, I don't care what you are. When you step into your purpose, it changes things. When you do your job with integrity, skill, dependability, and especially if you're sharing the gospel on a regular basis, then you're living for the full glory of God and His purpose that He has in your life. And what happens is this elevates the work. Right? A rising tide brings up every boat. And so when you elevate, everybody else elevates. And it elevates whatever you're doing, whatever project you're working on, whatever position you're in, whatever you're doing, it really does. It brings everybody up to the highest possible level. 1 Corinthians. So whatever you eat or drink, whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. And I love that he says if you eat, do it for the glory of God. And I can do some of that. See at Roadhouse, right? Colossians 3, work willingly at whatever you do as though you are working for the Lord rather than for people. Right? It's not just a payday. It's a purpose. And yeah, you do get a payday and you do got to pay the power bill and you do got to eat. But there's a purpose that's behind it, and God has put these people in your path, these specific people every day that cross your path, whether you're walking down a hallway of a high school or you're pulling into the yard for somebody to do some work. God has put those people there for you to have this interaction with, and you have a decision to make. Am I going to elevate this situation? Am I just going to exist? Jesus said, I come so you could live, not exist. I want you to live. And how do I want you to live? I want you to live your life to the fullest. David said, my cup, it overflows. Right? We give one of these kids a cup that's overflowing, and it's going to get on everything. That's what happens in this situation. So now what? Right? You have an opportunity to go and be the light in a dark world, to be the hands and feet that Jesus had called you to be. We got this opportunity, and I don't want us to miss this moment. So as the band comes back up, I want to share one more thing. And so as I was getting ready for this, I found this quote from Dietrich Bonhoeffer, right? And he's a theologian, and he said, the person who loves their dream of community will destroy community. But the person who loves those around them will create community. And so what he's saying is that some people dream of this perfect place, and they're always dreaming of it, and they always want to go there. And because they're dreaming of it and they want to go there, they're very critical of everything around them. And they're always chastising and very critical of the things that are around them. But there's others, and they're making it perfect. One place, one person, one encounter at a time. They're working to make the place where they are better in that exact moment by serving and loving the people around them. And whenever you continually do that, you're going to create community that can't be broken, right? So as we go, we don't just leave, we go with purpose. We go as people that God has called you to go. Like we leave this place and we go to every place. But we're still people that are called by God to be in that place. And we go in one accord, in one mind, and to make Jesus known in real and relevant ways. So I want to close with this prayer from Paul. It's in Ephesians chapter 3, starts at verse 14. And Paul's just pondering. He said, when I think about all this, I just fall to my knees and I pray to the Father, the creator of everything, of heaven and earth. And he says, I pray this. I pray that from his glorious, unlimited resources, that he will empower you with inner strength through his Spirit. And then Christ will make his home in your heart as you trust in him. Your roots will grow down into God's love and keep you strong. And may you have the power to understand, as all God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, how deep is his love. And may you experience the love of Christ that is too great to understand fully. And then you will be made complete in all the fullness of life and power that comes from God. Now, all glory to God, who is able through his mighty power to work within us to accomplish infinitely more than we could ever ask or imagine. So as they play this last song, I want you to ask God, like, God, where can you use me? What have I been missing? Like, what's been obvious that I've been walking past? What's the thing that's right in front of me? And maybe you heard some of those things, you say, oh, I could do some stuff around church. I've got a few minutes. Listen, we would love to have you. There's people who come every week and do different things. And not only the work is special, but it's special with those interactions. And it's good for the soul. See, we're called to live in Christ, in the image of Christ. And Christ is a giver. He gives us breath. He gives us life. And so when we give, when we pour out into the community, when we pour out into the local church, when we pour out into the people around us, we're living into the fullness of God. We're living into this image of a giver as Christ. And so if you think, I would love to do something at church. Maybe I've got a few minutes, or maybe it's just here or there. We got Vacation Bible School coming. We got all these things that are coming. We got things that are happening and things that are coming. And so if you'd like to do that, just stop by the Next Steps table out there. There's going to be people who will take just your name and number. And if you don't even know what you might want to do, I'll get up with you and we'll figure something out. Like we'll figure something out. Who knows? I mean, then tell them what God's ready to do. And if you do have a plan, I'd love to work with kids. Let them know that, and we'll take it down. But here's what I know. We're not called to just observe. We're called to do. Be ye doers of the word, not just hearers alone.